Welcome to the Film Analysis, today with Paw Patrol by Cal Brunker. I was not aware of this series, or rather this phenomenon, at all until now. I had once seen these toys but never consciously took notice. A debate surrounds the series and the motion picture that emerged from it. What ideology does Paw Patrol express? Is it authoritarian neoliberalism? So I watched the motion picture and some episodes of the series. It caused me severe pain. But it is of the essence to deal with such a phenomenon. The Canadian series is short, but there are many episodes, over 200 by now. An episode spans over 23 minutes, but it is also split up and includes 2 cases. The series is enormously successful and has spread to over 160 countries. Surely any parents watching will know Paw Patrol. But it's more than just a TV show. It promotes merchandise ending up under the Christmas tree. The movie is no longer about making a big dramatic arc. However, usually a movie tells a story in 90 minutes, and this film does so in a rudimentary way, but mainly a lot of things keep happening at short intervals until they finally dissolve into nothing. After that, the next thing happens. The series turns children into goldfish, possessing an attention span of 15 minutes. Afterwards, everything is forgotten again and it re-begins. A common theme as of today: take education. Schools no longer expect children to read longer texts or books. Now one might suspect me to be a cultural pessimist. But why not? The climate worsens due to man. Why shouldn't culture worsen, being man-made as well? The story follows a narrative jump cut principle and lets arbitrariness prevail. It seldom applies any logic to its narrative. This very fragmentation renders the show frenzied, letting the show chase its own tail. Parents put their children in front of the show to relax a bit as their children stress them out because they are hectic and highly strung. 30 minutes, 40 minutes of peace in front of the series, but the children return afterwards even more hectic and highly strung, leaving the parents even more on edge. Why is Paw Patrol successful in so many countries and has even released its own movie? These cute-looking dogs appear to push the right button somehow. As we will see, Paw Patrol resembles another known franchise, Marvel. Paw Patrol's puppies represent Avengers for the little ones. At first, the series itself does not clearly serve neoliberal themes. Granted, there is gold mining at one point and competitions happen all the time, a significant term for the neoliberal paradigm. There is a talent contest and sports festivals, a tulip contest even. Challenges dominate as they do on YouTube. But we need to broaden this debate a bit and observe more fundamentally the society the series is building. An essay by criminologist and sociologist Liam Kennedy proves helpful. Whenever there's trouble, just yelp for help. Crime conservation and corporatization in Paw Patrol. Crimes in the series and in the film are predominantly committed by animals or humans, not at home in Adventure Bay or Adventure City. The other signifies a threat. This thinking results in containment policy. The perpetrators also act out of personal drives or defects, behaving greedily or selfishly. But never does the series show a social background that might be partly responsible for theft. Politics are embodied in this series by Mayor Hamdinger and Mayor Goodwill. Hamdinger comes from another city but wants to expand his power. He acts corruptly, immorally, and is self-centered. Said Liam Kennedy points out how the series paints the female mayor Goodwill, naive and incompetent. What is to be concluded from this? We have a very strong skepticism of the state in the neoliberal paradigm anyway. Paw Patrol depicts a cast of politicians that cannot be trusted as they are incompetently selfish and doltish. Consequently, one is supposed to get rid of the state and privatize. The neoliberal conception of the state plays from a lean and at the same time strong state, which seems to contradict each other, but it does not. In terms of social issues, according to this logic, one needs a lean state, but the state must still be strong in terms of efficient intervention in the sense of security and protection of property. One can have a militaristic police force or a law enforcement force. You may have a militaristic police force or hire law enforcement officers from the private sector. Or you strengthen volunteerism, citizens pay the costs, they themselves sacrifice their time to keep watch. In any case, the movie shifts the setting from Adventure Bay to Adventure City. The female mayor is omitted. Mayor Hamdinger remains, however. Hamdinger has plans. He wants to be elected. What is the best way to get elected? By being the only candidate. He entertains other interesting views as he wants to manipulate the weather. In the evening, fireworks are planned, the clouds interfere, which is why the mayor obtains a weather machine a scientist created. The mayor orders the weather machine to execute geoengineering. For example, suck the clouds down to enable the fireworks. It all sounds a bit crazy, but that's how it is in children's series sometimes. That's not the problem either. Of course, this mayor may lead to Trump comparisons, but we shouldn't let ourselves get carried away. Let's just think of The Lion King, where we also have a counterfigure to Simba's father, namely Scar. And the film establishes him as a villain, as an enemy for the other, Mufasa, not to be recognized, so that we do not realize how hierarchically the society of Simba and Mufasa is structured. We must be careful with some critics of Paw Patrol, critics who note a conservative society working with male and female stereotypes. All that is true. However, we shouldn't conclude a little more diversity and all problems are dealt with. The film tries adding some diversity, but the real problem remains untouched. Who are these Paw Patrol people, these puppies? Well, an efficient intervention force that acts without bureaucracy, not legitimized or paid by the state. A private organization. Even Milton Friedman, in his calls for more privatization, usually shied away from calling for privatization of state power as well. But in the meantime, we are witnessing more and more development from a monopoly on the use of force to a market in violence. As we learn in the movie, merchandise revenue finances the new headquarters, exposing the Paw Patrol business model. Another expression of the lean but strong state. These cute doggies represent everything needed for order and security. They have a police car, fire truck, helicopter, a garbage collector, proper equipment for road construction. Interestingly, the police appear militarized. Black Lives Matter poses the question, what image of security forces of the police do you paint? We witness quite the authoritarian police force here, which, by the way, is controlled by a 10-year-old boy named Ryder, at the same time, however, linked to such a harmlessness, sweetness, trivializing the actions of the police. PAW Patrol further establishes the permanent state of emergency. Crisis is everywhere. You must intervene quickly, you must solve something again, then they head off to the next crisis. Technicism fits in splendidly. Not only is the toy equipment with every child's dream applying the Transformers or Power Rangers principle, trivial gadgets very quickly become electronic junk. In general, the series is permeated by technicist thinking and solutionism. The right technology will solve everything. Hence, this weather machine, which is repeatedly told that it doesn't really manipulate the weather, but it can be used to monitor the weather very well. We are thus approaching geoengineering. Kennedy writes in his essay about PAW Patrol, "The PAW Patrol universe is full of extreme and volatile weather, but these unpredictable weather patterns are not attributed to climate change." Another time we experience a serious principle, namely decontextualization. It doesn't relate crimes to anything whatsoever. Why are they committed? In PAW Patrol, we witness snow in the summer, storms occur, but it's never explained exactly why. Rather, the series paints a conservative neoliberal narrative. We are supposed to get used to the ongoing state of emergency. Climate change seems present but absent at the same time. People wait for innovation, believing it can be easily fixed. I saw this ideology in its craziest form a few years ago at a science fiction conference. A science fiction author supposed climate change to be no issue at all. We achieved technical innovation enabling us to suck the CO2 back out of the atmosphere. It would only cost $300 trillion. But everything would be fine afterwards. As already mentioned, neoliberalism always implies competition, a challenge. So it is not surprising that the two cities of Goodwill and Humdinger are also in a permanent competition, typical for neoliberal urban development. Each city receives a logo narrative, and somehow one is always the best, most beautiful and or oldest city. Or let's think of the EU. The European Union is organized in such a way that the member states face each other as competitors, which of course constantly produces losers. Now one could object PAW Patrol also contains friendship. These sweet doggies arrive right away and help. The show's creators constantly conceal what it's all about. Of course, there is help, but it follows the principle of subsidiarity. It is the idea of conservative politicians that we don't need a strong welfare state because we can arrange all we need to do within our families and communities or in the private sector. It's not the state that helps here, that would be the task of a welfare state, but individuals. A private company that can be called upon rendering the state irrelevant. The strong individualization in the film suits well. Again and again the film emphasizes you can make it, synonymous with you are obliged to make it. Furthermore, the show states no job is too big, no pub is too small. At the same time, you hear about Chase the dog, for example, that he was born to be a hero. This is strongly reminiscent of Ayn Rand, a mastermind of radical neoliberalism. In her famous novel Fountainhead, she introduces the hero Howard Roark, equally born a hero. As I said, this troop of dogs is commanded by Ryder, who rather supervises from a tower. Consequently, he represents an authoritarian authority and is obviously prone to vigilant justice. Another parallel to 70s and 80s cinema. Thinking of Death Wish with Charles Bronson in the starring role, we also think of the 2018 Death Wish remake with Bruce Willis relating vigilantism to neoliberalism. The film even mentions Milton Friedman, and Bruce Willis, as the Avenger, acts like a private entrepreneur who is fed up with the state. If the state withdraws, a private army must intervene without democratic legitimacy, reminding us of the Marvel ideology. The Avengers as well do not correspond to democratic legitimacy, representing a lean intervention force showing up wherever it is needed or where it believes to be of need. The Avengers avoid state institutions. Politics is represented even less and even worse than in PAW Patrol. There is this idea in the Avengers of the Sokovia Accord, tying the Avengers to the UN and rendering them less independent. Two movies in particular address this. The superheroes sign but divide over it. Many also see the signing as a major mistake. The Marvel heroes are also popular all over the world. Like our cute dogs, no matter how democratic a state is or apparently not, this new authoritarianism seems to enjoy great popularity. We should not be fooled by its harmlessness. Marvel, like PAW Patrol, promotes law and order. Well, children certainly won't come home shouting, "Mom, Dad, I'm dying to read Milton Friedman's books," or join the Liberal Party. Ideology does seep in, though. It is particularly effective when it simply exists, depicted as part of a society considered natural and desirable. This is true for PAW Patrol and its ideology, suggesting the foreign to be the threat, demanding security and control, is simply accepted and internalized through permanent repetition. One could also ask why exactly such a society is portrayed and not a completely different one. This question also arises in The Lion King. Why isn't the society of Timon and Pumbaa portrayed as desirable? Why does it come down to hierarchy again in the end? We realize ideology shapes entertainment. The pedagogical question is, should we watch PAW Patrol with children? Should we ban it? I would like to answer this question with a somewhat polemical answer. There is a wonderful text by Umberto Eco, Letter to My Son. In it, Umberto Eco philosophizes about what he will gift his son for future birthdays when he turns 4, 5, 6. Eco writes, I'll give you guns, double-barreled, with repeating action, rapid fire and machine guns, cannons, bazookas, sabers, warring armies of lead soldiers. Eco lists on and on, then says, "You astonishing me, sir," people will say, "you who are involved in an anti-nuclear weapons committee, who participates in Easter marches and professes the mystique of pacifism." He writes further, "My childhood had been decidedly, indeed almost exclusively, warlike. I shot into the bushes with homemade blowguns, ducked behind the sparse cars on the side of the road and fired volleys from my bolt-action rifle. And out of this orgy of war games," Eco writes, "came a man who managed to complete 18 months of military service without touching a rifle." So this man has become a pacifist. Eco makes one thing clear. Context always matters, also regarding guns. Above all, he writes, "I will not teach you to shoot at the Indians. I will teach you to shoot at the liquor and gun dealers who destroy the Indians' powers of resistance, and at the slaveholders of the South, for it is understood that you shoot as a Lincoln man." Umberto Eco vouches for guns, but he says, "So, dear Stefano, I will give you guns and teach you to play very complex wars in which the truth is never to be found merely on one side." What matters is, what is the narrative behind it all? It's not just about individual toys, individual things, but the whole context, which is undoubtedly not a good one in Paw Patrol. Would Umberto Eco watch Paw Patrol with his son? Probably not. Would he buy his son Paw Patrol toys? Probably not either. No, he would probably grab a gun and give his son a gun too. Then they would fire together at these supposedly cute puppies, so we wouldn't just watch, but see. It would be nice if you would like to support the film analysis financially. You can do so via my bank account or PayPal. Also, you can find me on Patreon. Thank you very much.